Well, hello and welcome to episode 194, School's Back in Session in September, with me, Al Coates, him,
Scott Casson-Ronau,
and we've got a guest, her,
Fiona Wells.
the cat's mother. Shame on me.
I know that's rude. It's very rude.
It is rude. Well, so round robin, how's everyone doing after the summer holidays? This is the beginning of September. The kids are back at school. All of that means. We'll start with Scott. Scott, how's life treating you?
It's going to be a long podcast if you come to me first. Is all I'm saying.
All right, go on then.
It's been a weird one. It has been a weird summer, but I think it's been a weird summer because we've ended summer with. Like, it's just me, Tris, and a 25-year-old in the house, because on Saturday we delivered. Sorry, no, actually, that's a lie. On Sunday we delivered.
No, tell the story. I got this message that I could hardly read because Scott was like tears down his face. He was laughing so hard. What happened?
I wasn't
Scott?
laughing. It wasn't funny. So basically, we thought that Jacob was due to arrive at university on Saturday, but it turns out it wasn't Saturday. So when we turned up to the university on Saturday and it was Sunday, it didn't really go too well.
So what did you do?
Well, we came home, of course. I mean, what can you do? You know, it wasn't like we wanted to get rid of him or anything. And then it took us 2 attempts on Sunday to get him there as well. So we were a day early. The date and the day got muddled, and nobody actually thought to challenge us. Sorry, not me. I cannot take responsibility for this because I didn't organise it. But it was a kind of just what you would call a dry run on the Saturday. So we drove all the way up to the university. Thankfully, it's only an hour away, so we're not too bad. Car full of stuff.
I mean, it's not like you wanted to get rid of him. It's not like you were over keen to get rid of the child.
Fair, now he's not here. I'm like, what is my purpose in life? I don't know what I'm here to do now. I mean, I've got 3 cats. I'm going to be that crazy cat lady now, I think.
I'll join you on that one.
Yeah, I might even get more cats actually at this stage. Basically, Jacob got his results from his what's called the Leaving Cert here, which is the equivalent of A levels in the UK. He did really well, and with his with additional kind of, so they work on a point system here. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but they work on a point system here, and because he was in the care system in the UK, he could get extra points, and because he's got a disability, he gets extra points as well. I'm not saying that was the reason he got into university, but that helped him to get what he wanted to do. So on Sunday, eventually, I was unpacking my little boy's stuff into his university accommodation, and I don't think I've dealt with the emotion of it yet. So if you go no, don't do that, Al.
You can soft empathy.
Yeah, because I can be sometimes. So he's what I didn't expect though, and this is just a note to self. I didn't expect a 1 hour 30 minutes FaceTimes every evening since, asking how to cook broccoli, and I thought I'd done all that with him. I genuinely, but broccoli. I don't know if it's because he just wants to speak to me, or do you know what I mean? It's like that
using
kind
it
of
as
situation.
an excuse.
Exactly, and I'm loving it. I am loving it. Although an hour and a half when I want to go to bed is kind of, it's a bit.
What's he do? So he's cooking broccoli at bedtime.
No, not at bedtime, but I just want to go to bed when he makes me. I'm in recovery.
Oh wow, that's quite a thing.
Yeah. So, and in other news, other son has started a new job. He's now working for I'm not sure I should say the airline's name, so I'm not gonna. I'll tell you afterwards. But he's working for the largest low-cost airline in the world.
Well.
Just gave it away.
Let me
However,
think.
when I said to him, "Are you sure you're not going to be mixed up with cabin crew?" He looked at me like I was I'd grown 2 heads, because he would be the least likely person that you would want serving you on a plane. But anyway, he's with them doing he's trainee engineer for them now. So that happened last week.
Blimey, it's
and then
changed.
all the other stuff that's gone into it. So yeah, it's been a busy summer, and now we can just relax, breathe. However, I have missed the back to school thing.
Have you missed it?
I have missed it a little bit. Yeah, I really have.
Like all the Facebook, he's like little Tarquin in his new uniform.
Tricky, isn't it?
Yeah,
very tricky
it
time.
can be. Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Well, how are you, Fiona? How's your summer been?
I've been working, so is what it is. I'm actually on leave.
I'm so glad
today.
we got you on.
I'm going to a wedding this weekend.
Oh.
I can't say much about it in case somebody watches who is going to the wedding.
That's really cryptic. Is it a secret wedding? Is it like a royal wedding or a
I was going to say, is it
wedding?
like someone famous or something?
No, it's just a very long way to drive to go for a wedding.
Oh, that sounds quite painful. I could hear it in your voice.
Yeah,
it sounded quite painful.
Yeah, we'll see.
And are you taking children with you? Are you going?
Not my children, stepchildren. So that's fine.
Excellent.
That's fine.
Excellent.
Yeah. Oh, I have got an interesting story about my dog.
Go for it. Why the hell not?
She got a really, really bad virus last week and ended up at the emergency vets. Nice big bill for $2.5.
Jeez.
Fortunately, I've got insurance. Went to the vet. They said, so her heart started failing, which she's only 3 and she's a very healthy Labrador. And so I took her to the vets and then waited with bated breath for 24 hours to say, you need to come and pick up her ashes. And then they said, she's starting to make an improvement. You can come and pick her up. And we were like, right, okay, this is, they pulled us into a room and told us that she was needing to be put to sleep. And I sat there and started crying, as you do. My legs went. I was sort of kneeling, half crouching on the floor, and it twigged. They hadn't mentioned the fact that her heart was failing. They'd mentioned a completely different health issue. So I turned around to the very, very heavily pregnant vet and said, what about the heart? And she said, yeah, so blah, 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 blah. And I went, no, stop. What about the heart? And then she looked at me and she went, oh my God, I've just told you about the wrong pet.
No!
I said, right, let me stop you again. How is my dog?
God.
She said, you can take her home tonight. She's really good. Then I got my bearings and realised that I was lying on the euthanasia couch at this point.
Ready just to be gone. You'd had enough. You'd gone to Switzerland. You were lying back. Ready.
And the people who were having their actual pet put to sleep were sitting outside the door crying.
Oh no!
You couldn't have made
it.
No.
Seriously, we need a works outing because this is just gold.
I wondered where that was going. I was like, Fiona, can you just get to the punchline on this? And then you got to the punchline. I was like, okay, I didn't expect that punchline. So yeah.
No, she's done. Yeah. She's gone to stay with her nana for the week while I go away. And she's fitting well.
God, I thought that was a real downer of a conversation. I thought, blooming heck, this is going to be a fun podcast, isn't it?
And it was only because the vet was pregnant I didn't lose my poo.
Yeah.
So yeah, very interesting day for me.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
That is.
And I mean, Al and I have both lost dogs over the last couple of years. So
yes.
I would get like how that would make you feel.
Oh, awful. She's mad. She's like, I've got 4 cats and 1 dog, and honestly, I would rather lose a friend.
Okay.
Or the boyfriend on some days, depending on, they don't answer back.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way back from this.
No, I don't think it is. So let's move on. Al, how are you after the summer?
Hell's teeth. Please, quickly moving on. I have nothing to compare. It's all been fine. I can't remember when we did it last podcast, but actually my son moved out, my daughter and my granddaughter moved out. So we're just down to this household of 4, which is just...
Honestly, it's freaky, isn't it?
We don't know what to do. Well, we do know what to do with ourselves. We do nothing.
Yeah.
Just sit and put the telly on. We don't have to turn it up because no one's screaming or shouting. And that sounds terrible that people are screaming and shouting. But yeah, just absolutely transformed. We realised it's been 25 years that we've always had someone under 6 in our house.
Wow. No wonder you're bonkers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's actually just really, really weird. And then we just, odd things are happening. Like we all just sit and have our tea, chat. It's like,
Do you know what? Can I just be honest? Last night was the first night. So Brandon had his girlfriend over and she stayed for dinner. Well, she might as well just move in at this stage. But anyway, and we were sat eating dinner and I was just very conscious of the silence because, I mean, Al knows Jacob.
Oh,
and Jacob cannot have silence. So like even when you're eating dinner, it's like it's just and it just really struck me that this is very different. Like it's not that there, when he's back, he'll be back and we'll have dinner and blah blah, and it'll just go back to normal kind of thing. But that is our normal. We're so used to the kind of chaos and noise and all that sort of stuff. And when it's not there, you think, and I kind of likened it, not likened it, but I compared it to somebody who may have lost somebody and then they end up just being do you know, it's that kind of thing.
It is loss, isn't it? It's
it kind of is. Yeah, absolutely. So I hear you, Coates, and I knowing Mrs. Coates, I'm not sure how she will be dealing with that because she likes the kind of
I did wonder because I thought for so long there's been an element of like just pizzazz. Or there's always something. There's always someone. There's always something because there's always been so many of us. And I was off last week, and so we just sat and it was like and I thought this is going to take some adjustment because I'm used to a level of chaos, and so there's always something to resolve or something to fix. And then so it's a whole week of me like going, "Oh, I'll just watch telly then." I'll see what's on the telly, and it turns out there's nothing on the telly.
No, there is nothing on the telly. I can confirm, but I've known that for years. So
Well, yeah. So
there you go.
It's been a good summer, yeah. So back to work now, back to the cut and thrust, and we've got a really busy summer. So really busy autumn. I don't know about you guys, but I thought we invited Fiona mainly because she's a laugh, and honestly, we were laughing like drains before we pressed record. But that was for podcast after dark.
I feel like that would be a thing with Fiona Wells, to be honest.
Thanks for that.
Unfiltered. Yeah. Yeah. How did Fiona Wells lose her registration? Well, listen to this episode.
Here we go.
Strap in. Here we go. So Fiona, you had a bright idea a couple of months ago, and we did a mini podcast a few weeks ago. But you had a really, really good idea, and you came to me and you chatted about it about a conference. So tell me where we're up to with the conference, what's happening with the conference, because it's, from what I can gather, it's taken a life of its own.
Hasn't it just?
Is this something I'm coming to? Or have I been invited? Or I don't know.
No, Al's already put you on the list. So.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you're doing a turn.
Not without financial recompense, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm skinny, so you've got no chance with that one. No, it's gone really well actually. We've had such a good level of interest from different parts of the world affected by, affected, that's the wrong word, interested in adoption in every form, I think. I did do a rough estimate because I'm really curious, and it's about 50% professionals, which I think is really, really good. I think my issue now is making sure that I don't waffle, which I'm really good at. And I could do with one of those prods that somebody prods me and says, right, shut up now. But yeah, so lots and lots of people come in. Lots
over 450, isn't it?
Yeah, over 450. It's coming ahead. My plans are on paper, and I'm just working through it. And I suppose the most important thing for me is I represent a community, and I want to make sure it's not my voice, it's our voice, and that's massive. And I suppose that's a little bit of anxiety for me because I've always been really careful to make sure that this isn't, so it's my journey that started this, but I'm not the fuel in the tank. They're the fuel in the tank. So it's really important to make sure I've made sense of what people are telling me and that I'm talking about it. But I also want to be really, really hopeful. And whilst I will be banging some negative drums through the event, I want to look at how we challenge and change things, not how we moan about them. So there's two elements there, making sure I've got everybody's voices making sure 3 elements. I've made sense of people's voices, and then making sure that it's not doom and gloom.
So people may have listened to the earlier podcast, and I'm aware that it's worth giving a summary about what the focus of the conference is. And also, can you tell me a little bit about the network you talk about, this community behind you? Where if people want to join that, and what is the purpose of that kind of community?
So it's that I'll go right back to the beginning. I went into crisis within my own family adoption many years ago. But I asked for support in 2019, and I was gobsmacked by how tricky it was, how complex it was to get the right support. And I feel like I've people go to university to do a degree to learn. I feel like the last 5 years of asking for support has been a degree in adoption. Like, I feel like I've learned so much more than I did, about trauma, about, adversity in childhood. Yet I'm a child protection social worker, so I'm seeing it from so many different sides with so many different hats. So I was shocked at other people's experiences, often far worse than mine. And I felt like I needed to challenge some of the systems in place and some of the emphasis on blaming adopters for not managing. So I did a crisis document. I sent it out to thousands and thousands of people. There was quite a lot of really, really good feedback from people saying, I feel so much better for reading this. I don't feel so alone. You speaking out for all of us. And then, but also professionals who aren't in the public sector who agree with what the document's highlighting and how harrowing it was for a lot of people to read. So that's continued now. I've set up a group called Patch, which will be a charity, or whatever it's called, CIC, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I have
Community Interest Company.
Thank you. So I'm going to set it up as that. It's Patch, Passionate Adopters Targeting Change with Hope. Hope, very important. Not doom and gloom, but we do have to mention the negatives. And I have a Facebook group, I have a website, and I have a massive gob. Essentially. And
nicely put.
I feel like you should be on one of those stand-up shows. The ones that you see when you're scrolling TikTok or Facebook Reels or something like that, and you just get a comedian and they just come out with these classic things at the end.
Yeah, I do get myself into trouble though.
I'm sure that Social Work England don't listen to the podcast, so we should be okay.
I've spoken to them as well. So part of my Patch thing is I've spoken to, I think it's like coming up to 40 different organisations or people. So, for instance...
you're a feisty bugger, Fiona.
I am, yeah.
Honestly. So,
Adoption England, Adoption UK, Ofsted, Social Work England, CAFCAS, I'm still trying to get through the door. I've started engaging with Family Rights Group and many different other people, such as yourselves as well. And I suppose the conference is about bringing the voices together to say there's too many of us to be ignored now. We need change, and it needs to be done in the right way for the kids and for the parents, because actually things are inadequate. Sorry, I hate using that word because it's so Ofstedy. But so a summary is that we're bringing people together. Myself, Al, Scott, you're helping, even though you. My good friend Leanne, and then Vicky McEwen, who's a trauma.
Oh, I like Vicky.
Yeah, she's amazing. And Sarah Jahal, who's Adoption UK, England, sorry. And it's just around. Don't get those two confused.
No.
It's around looking at how sometimes within adoption trauma is overlooked, and we're missing the fundamental issue of why families go into crisis. And that parents are then blamed and held responsible for that sometimes, not always. That the context of our family life is disregarded, so our journey as a family is often disregarded in those instances. The interventions that are put in place are often slow. They take 100 assessments and they're not often in line with need. So the pathway for me needs to change, and then the whole situation actually confounds the crisis, and we just end up worse than we were. Obviously, there's lots of positive stories. Unfortunately, nobody wants to write them to me. So I have asked if anybody does have a positive story about crisis intervention, please actually send them to me, because I do want to balance what I capture, and I'm unable to do that without somebody sharing. Because I haven't heard any, and that's, I don't want to be doom and gloom. I want to hear what people got that was right and that was in line and that was helpful and was child-centered and parent-centered. So I'm waffling now, so I'll stop.
No, you're not waffling, because what you've just said there actually just struck a chord with me, because I don't think there was anything that anybody as a professional did to make sure that we ended up where we are today. I think that as a family we did that.
Yeah.
And so is that a common theme for families, where actually as a family you get to that point yourselves? And I'm not just talking about as parents, I'm talking about like the children or young people being involved in that, because I know if I was to ask Jacob what helped and what didn't help, he would tell you that there was a time, and he's told me this already, so I'm not speaking out, turn around, but he's told me this already. He woke up one day and he realized that his trauma, he was kind of, he was kind of putting that on us from his past. And of course we want him to help. We want to help him deal with it. Of course we do. I mean, that's what you sign up for, isn't it? That's your job as a parent. But what he realized was that actually it was unfair, and this is his words, it was unfair to put that on us, because he just got to a certain age where he realized that actually we were here to help him, or try and help him. I don't know if we've helped. Well, yeah, we have helped him, actually. I'm not going to take that away from us. But he just got to the point where he went, actually, do you know what? I'm beating the shit out of these people. Excuse my language. Sorry. I know, Al, you'll probably have to put an E on this and now and what have you.
There's a button I have to press.
Well, I've said it 3 times now. Sorry about that.
You used to say shit.
But he got to that point where he realized, and I think he was about 15, 16, when he went, enough is enough now. I can't keep doing this to them, and I can't keep doing this to myself. And yet at that point, we had absolutely no interference from any agency, because they'd all just disappeared.
Yeah.
And it was him that decided that with the parenting, and so it was as a family that we got through it.
Yeah, and there's so much responsibility put onto the parenting, when actually it should be put onto the trauma or the adversity or the fact that things haven't been dealt with or healed, and I'm not saying there's a magic one, but I think things need to change. The corners, the angles of each side of this need to move. And we need to put them in in a responding order in line with the child. Now, I could sit here being really angry at what's happened to my family, because I don't have all my children living with me through choice, because I couldn't get hit anymore.
Yeah.
And I have divorced, so I have the option of separating the children, which I've had to do for their safety. That was heartbreaking for me this week, when people are putting their pictures of their kids going back to school and my boys aren't with me, it's horrific. But I know in my heart that I've made the right decision, because my daughter can't get hit anymore, and I can't get hit anymore, and my boys can't see the aftermath of them hitting us anymore. So there's that journey. It's that I'm safeguarding them, but I'm also safeguarding me, and I'm safeguarding my daughter, because actually I want to be my son's parent for their life.
Yeah.
And I will do that from a distance, because it's safer. Now, obviously, shame and guilt yourself and all the rest of it.
Of course. Yeah.
This journey of 5 years of waiting for some actual support, where I faced blame and shame, and I'm surprised I got through it, to be honest, because it was absolutely effing awful, has made me so wise to the situation. But I've also thought about my own journey as an adoptee. So, I've had to do a lot of self-thought with some assistance from a therapist, no names mentioned, who's amazing. And it's been really interesting, because it's like you said a minute ago around putting the trauma on parents. I have to think about my journey of where things have happened to me as an adoptee, because regardless, obviously my journey very, very different from my kids. They have a lot more trauma than I ever could, given I was relinquished. But it's still a question over identity. It still makes you wonder who you are, why You know, I went through all my teenage years thinking I was the problem child. I wasn't good enough. I couldn't learn in school. You know, so much sort of like poor self-esteem. Where did that come from? Well, it didn't just come from being relinquished. So it's about making sense of that journey. Now I'm 47. I have a therapist, and I'm making sense of my journey at this age. So who's going to help my kids who are actually displaying my feelings from being a teenager? I never hit anybody, and obviously my children have been traumatized way worse than I have. But who's going to help them through understand their journey? You know, and I think for me, being a social worker who's removed kids, who's been through court proceedings, who understands that side of it, who understands the adoptee side of it, who understands some of the adopter side of it as a parent massively, but as a, you know, seeing what my children go through, I think it makes me want things to get so much better for so many angles of this. But it's, do you know what? It's also the professionals, because I don't think they get it. And that must be hard, because if I was a professional, didn't get what I was doing, and I knew it wasn't working, I would be really frustrated.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for lived experience as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. So that is on the 24th of September.
Yeah.
It's 9:30 till 1. We'll put a link to it in the Whirly Gig, the show notes, but you can find it on Eventbrite, or if you go Facebook, or look on my feed, look on podcast feed, look for Patch, you'll be able to find that there. And I think the thing that really
I'm available. I've just checked my calendar.
Oh, thank God.
Well, we need someone to make tea.
I was supposed to be at the EU FASD conference, but anyway, we'll come to that in a minute. But I'm not going. So.
Oh, well, it's online, so it's fine. And Scott, you could.
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't know if I want to come now. I don't like online stuff.
Well, we can't do it without you. So tough.
Yeah, if you could be the interval, if you could do the intervals, you could be the
dance.
jazz hands, and while you go out for a wee, Scott is going to do a small dance. So, well, that's very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it, because I think that it's just really interesting to have we don't want to kind of create an environment where it's, you know, we're these angry parents who are kind of shaking our fist at the system, going, "You need to do better." Well, yeah, that's right. But we want to create an environment where we can have this conversation and go, you know, what can we do? What can you do? What do we think? It's co-production. We're looking to start some sort of co-production, aren't we? To use the common parlance, to affect change in a positive way, not just be griping parents.
I have to say, I have seen some stuff. I'm not online as much as I used to be. I used to be prolifically on Twitter and stuff like that, so I haven't seen very much. What I have seen, if you've got Sarah Johal on board on something like this, I mean, you know, we know that she's been in a documentary, and she was in the same documentary that Al Coates.
Shut your face.
Oh, yeah. Just Google it.
I will.
Yeah, do. Honestly, I'll send you links, actually, Fiona, because honestly, it's hilarious. It's hilarious, honestly. If you could see Al back in the day.
I was so young.
But if you've got Sarah Johal on board, Sarah doesn't get involved in stuff that she doesn't actually believe is a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess the only kind of negative point for me would be that, you know, again, it's the parents that are having to instigate this thing, you know. And I guess I'm a little bit out of touch with what's going on in the UK, because I don't live there anymore and stuff, and I'm never asked to go to things anymore. But you know, I kind of try and keep in touch with it. I mean, God, I didn't even know that. Anyway,
we've had an election.
There's stuff going on. Yeah, I knew that. God's sake, man. But yeah, so there's lots of stuff that I'm not kind of really involved in anymore. But I think for me, that, you know, if people like Sarah Johal are involved, then it's clearly something that she's passionate about, and she has the ear of a lot of people. Yeah. To be able to say, why, you know, clicking her fingers, not necessarily changing the world, but certainly saying, okay, so this is a thing, and why are we not doing something about it?
It legitimizes it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And also, you know, but yet again, for too long now, for the last, well, certainly as long as I've been involved in this kind of sector, if you like, it's the parents that are being the ones that have to jump up and down and say, why aren't we doing something about this? You know?
And I think it for me, and I don't know whether it's because I'm adopted and I've got social work experience and working in Resi, it's kind of, to me, it makes sense. And obviously we can't evolve in society unless somebody says, oh, this is wrong. Now, social workers, and I, you know, some of my stuff that I'm going to talk about on the day is very social work negative. However, social workers aren't able to change things. They're not the ones that change the pathway.
Absolutely.
So we have to remember that, and that's really key. As much as I think the ones who worked with me were shocking, you know, generally social workers have a hard job. They do a hard job, and they don't have time to change the systems or the power to change systems. So it's about getting that voice out there as much as possible and saying, look, this is common sense. If we're not addressing the trauma, of course, parents are going to have problems because the children are not going to get over such significant adversity. Then social workers highlight what adversity children have been through to get them removed in court. Why are we then ignoring it when parents fall into crisis? So a lot of this is common sense and joining dots.
Yeah.
And Al reminded me not to be too negative.
I'm like the Muppet in the event, kind of going, but don't get sad, guys. It's all going to be okay. And I am, but I'm wired to be positive, so that's just.
See, I'm not. I'm such a negative Nelly. but I am a realist, and I do feel that things can change for the better. And all right, it might not be in time for my children, and that's really, really sad. And I have to live with that. But adoption needs to stay. Adoption, you know, despite what I went through as an adopted kid who was very confused about her identity, still is, by the way. My mum and dad love me and I love them, and they're not perfect and neither am I, but I would not want to have been anywhere else growing up. You know, we are a family. We are mum and dad and daughter and my brother. You know, we are meant to be together and we love each other no matter what we've been through. And that love is massive, like absolutely massive. I absolutely love my parents, and I would have hated to have been brought up by the woman whose vagina I came out of.
Well, and on that bombshell.
There you go.
So the event's the 24th September. Please sign up. We're going to hit the magic 500. Are we capping at 500? I don't know.
No cap at all.
All right, okay.
Oh my God, Fiona is my spirit animal, honestly. I mean, I remember, and probably a little bit different because the kind of the need was different, I think. But I remember when I worked at Adoption UK and I was organising their conferences, and you know, the first year I got to do that, I think we got 350, and then the second year we got 420 or something like that, and then COVID hit after I left Adoption UK, and we did one for the ANF podcast, and we were just like. It was just like everybody was coming, wasn't it? So yeah, you are my spirit animal because I don't believe in limits. I think
there's no point.
No, just get as many people to come and listen, and if they take away one or two things and want to instigate that change, then that's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's a lovely segue into Scott, No Limits roller coaster ride, Cass and Rennie. Scott, you have had a roller coaster ride.
Oh, halfway.
So tell me what's been going on with you, because I know that FASD Ireland has had some interesting days, and try not to get yourself into legal trouble as you tell the story.
I know I really have to be careful how I frame this. So essentially, I mean, anybody who listens to podcasts regularly will know that we were awarded a grant fund from the Department for Disability in Ireland way back when, earlier this year. Don't know when it was, couldn't tell you. In fact, it could have been 10 years ago at this stage because it's just taken so long. Anyway, ups and downs. It's like a little bit of a kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, a bit of a juggle kind of whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say now at this stage. But anyway, sadly, at the end of July, we had to lay everybody off and we had to close down because the funding hadn't come through, and you know, that was it. We had no money left, sadly.
So I'm
Well,
just going to
I can see you've
clarify.
got a question. Go on.
No, I was just going to so people that you'd been awarded this money, and then it wasn't that the money what you weren't going to be given the money. It was that it was just you were waiting. So you set up the whole infrastructure of the organization
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this. What was a cast iron?
Yes, we employed people. We actually
on
recruited
the
people
basis.
who left jobs to come and work for us.
Yes.
Yeah, we had to lay them all off. And we were very open and honest. If there's one thing we've learned over the years, it's what, if you've got a team that you believe in, if you're open and honest with them and tell them it like it is, then they will either stick by you or they won't. And I mean, I can feel the emotion in me right now because we're now a team of 7. We've gone from just me and Tris to a team of 7 people since March. And, we recruited 5 guys who are just the right people for those jobs. And for them to, we like I say, we went up through the ups and downs of the money, blah, blah, blah. We laid them off at the end of July and it was the end of August, and we were able to bring every single one of them back because every single one of them wanted to come back. And, we obviously paid them what they were owed, and, they continued working for us. It wasn't that they didn't do anything. Of course, they worked through that 4 weeks that we were kind of in limbo. But yeah, we got the money 23rd of August, I think it was.
You sent me a little message, didn't you?
I did, because, well, oh God, I can feel myself going now. That's how bloody, because we've been through so much. We're a really young organisation to be getting this kind of funding. 3 years old is not, you don't expect to get that in 3 years. But the Minister for Disability in Ireland, Anne Rabbit, who is an amazing advocate for FASD, she knows those children. She's met those children. Her kids have been in school with those children. She got it from the start, and she just gave FASD a home in Ireland because FASD is really it's not recognised as a disability in Ireland as yet, although we're making strides. And just to kind of be in that position now where, we've been given this money for 2024. Now, bearing in mind, we got that money in August, so we've got a lot of spending to do because it needs to be spent before the end of the year, and it's a full amount. So, it's not like we're going to be sitting about going, oh, look at us with lots of money, because we have to spend it. It has to be spent on the things that we said we were going to spend on. But yeah, so that's happened. We now have a team that are working really hard to make sure that we're here next year so that we can actually develop. So this year was about scaling up, getting people on board so that we can develop our services, so that we can, improve kind of the not necessarily the people that can access, that sounds wrong to say, but so that people know we're here. So marketing our organization, creating some kind of thing for the hub, getting people to ring us, all that sort of stuff that goes with it. And also training and, public health messages. And because we're now funded by the Health Service Executive, which is, we call it the HSE, which is equivalent of the NHS in the UK, the HSE, because we're now funded officially by them, that means that we are kind of the national organisation for FASD in Ireland. So
that is a roller coaster.
It's a bit.
I'm honoured to even be in the same room as you, Scott.
I know. So yeah, and sadly, in other news, that has meant that the Hidden Disability Sunflower in Ireland, we've had to kind of, we've had to say goodbye to that, because for every one email for FASD Ireland we were getting 20 emails from Sunflower. And we have to focus in on FASD Ireland now. So we've this week we've had to say goodbye to Sunflower. However, we're still members. We still really, we believe in the Sunflower brand. I've got a hidden disability with my brain aneurysms. I wouldn't go anywhere publicly without my lanyard, all that sort of stuff. So
I've seen you in your Sunflower jumpsuit, just to make it absolutely clear as you go through airports.
That was
so
a hoodie.
Everyone knows.
That was a hoodie. It wasn't a jumpsuit, because I would never wear a jumpsuit. I may be gay, but I would never wear a jumpsuit. Okay, so
there's a line you shall not cross.
So yeah, so there we go. That's where we're at. I won't talk about it anymore for legal reasons.
Well done, Scott.
but also
Well done.
emotional
Sounds
reasons.
amazing.
Because do you know what it has? And you know what? I know the team don't listen to this podcast because this is piffle for them. No offense, Fiona, but you know you've
None taken.
yeah. But this is UK based and they live in Ireland, but
Yeah.
I cannot honestly say any more about them because every single one of them stuck by us. And as soon as we said back to work Monday, every single one of them said, "Yep, I'll be there 9 a.m."
Oh, what a team.
What can you expect? Do you know, like you can't expect
That's
any
great.
more from an amazing bunch of people. And you know, we had the first couple of days of just kind of going, "Wow, did that really happen?" Blah blah blah. And now we're back into the throes of it. And you know, we had our team meeting on Monday, and we said, "Right, okay, everybody, get it all out and open. How are you feeling? You know, are you feeling disappointed? Are you feeling glad?" From that point, when the team meeting finished, that was it. We were back to normal, and you know, they've all stuck to that. So you know,
You've gone back to your curmudgeonly self, shouting and screaming at them, throwing chalkboards at the back of their heads. You know, that sort of thing.
do you know what? The fact that we've got this money means that they get keyboards at work, so they're all really happy.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
To hell with it. Throw another sugar in the coffee.
2 members of our senior leadership team get mobile phones as well,
Wow.
which they've been waiting on because obviously they've been using their own personal mobiles. So, you know,
And
because we've not had any money. So there you go.
What do your advisory board get? Just asking for a friend.
Depends on how supportive. Depends on how supportive they've been, to be honest.
All right, so that's a lump of coal then, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I'm lucky.
If you go and
Smashing.
find it, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but so let's move on from that. Al, you're in the midst of this massive global project with the Churchill Foundation. So,
I'm having so much fun. It's just the world of the strange because obviously the Churchill Fellowship is to basically go and look for
fellowship. I said foundation. I do apologize. I got my words wrong.
Please. So it's to look for best practice and expertise in terms of supporting families who are experiencing, who care for children who've previously looked after and perhaps manifest challenging, violent, aggressive behavior. So that's, that's the bread and butter of what we do in the podcast and what I do most of the time. And, it's a big part of what we talking about with, Fiona, with the safeguarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Massively in the mix. So what has been really fascinating is how generous people are with their time. And so I don't really want to give away what I'm discovering, but there's a couple of things that have really stood out to me. And one is that the amount of people who are in this world supporting families who have lived it. It's not like we've got someone in the team who helps that. It's like, that's how I got into this world. I was that family. I needed to get trained. And so there's this really interesting route where a lot of people they've developed themselves. And like what you were saying, Scott, is that they've thought to themselves, no one's coming. Yeah. So I need to go away and read some books and go to college, become a this or that or the other. And it was just amazing to talk to these people. And you'll talk to someone. So I was talking to someone from Los Alamos yesterday, and they'll go, "Oh, you need to speak to this person." They go, "All right, okay." So they give me another email address. And so in the midst of all that, I've spoken to Mennonites, which
you messaged me about some group, I don't know what you'd call them, and you expected me to know who they were, and I was like, I don't know.
Well, it's nothing to do. Well, so I spoke to someone who runs an online support group. He said, I met this person, you should ring them. And I said, well, who are they? And he said, they were a Mennonite. And I said, well, all right, fine, but hang on, Mennonites, is it similar to Amish? How do you ring? How do you get in touch with someone who's kind of eschews like all the trappings of modern life? So long story short, I had to ring a landline and hope that they were in. And they have a friend who keeps their email account. So I had to kind of ring them and tell them I've sent them an email. But I had this amazing conversation with What was interesting is respite is a massive thing in different parts of the world. People set up respite for families who are in crisis.
Wow.
Is it called respite in other countries? Do they have a different terminology?
No, they call it respite. But I didn't want to get into, I didn't want to fall out with them over that. Obviously,
the pronunciation doesn't really matter, does it? Because respite as a word or as terminology is quite frowned upon these days, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It makes it sound like you're giving up almost.
Yeah, and we had some training on language back when I was working for a local authority, and it was around, children feel like you need a break from. And I can kind of get that, but then I'm not sensitive, so
Well, yeah, I mean, but you are self-aware.
Yeah. And yes, I do need a break from children sometimes. Shock horror, you know.
Yeah, and so there was. It was just interesting how I heard sort of a sniff of it here, and then a sniff of it there, and a sniff of there, and actually people going, absolutely. And so I spoke to a therapist, and he had a program where respite was a massive function of helping children heal. It was kind of, and it was, and I'll just tell this little story how it kind of linked into stuff I was happening in my house. Is that he just said stuff and it just made so much sense. And I thought, I'm sure I've heard this before, but it just, when you've heard things 1,000 times, then you have the light bulb. And he said, so many of the children that we're caring for, everything bad that's ever happened to them has happened in the context of a family. So why do we even think that a family is a good place to heal them? And kind of like this light bulb moment went on, and then in a few weeks, so I'd had this conversation, and what they were doing is they were pulling children into like really top drawer people who were doing this professionally to look after kids for maybe a week or 2 weeks and keep them safe. But very clearly, we're not pretending to be your parents, but this is a house, this is a home. And, we live in a home kind of environment. We have that, but we're not your mum and dad. We're not replacing them. And then last week, one of my children came over and I just sort of had this moment. I just thought, to be really honest, I was really honest with them. I said, look, I realize now that perhaps you didn't need a dad. Yeah. And I'm just really sorry. Yeah. That's not to say you didn't need an adult.
Yeah.
Who cared and loved and mentored and parented you, but you didn't need a dad, because in terms of what all the crappy things that have ever happened to you, dads
in the form of a dad or a mum. I get that completely. My daughter took years to accept as having a mum, because every female in her life had always let her down, so it didn't make sense to her. You were just, like you were saying, Scott, the idea that the moment that light bulb went on for Jacob, and he goes, oh, actually, this isn't this isn't you. And and you just think some of this stuff is really fundamental to the whole notion of adoption, is that we are creating a new family. But for maybe like 1965, that was fine for a child who was relinquished. But for the children that are coming through now are children who have been harmed within the context of families.
So I mean, the one thing that struck me there when you were chatting now was the fact that there was a time where you felt that it was just you dealing with this. Yeah. And now you're speaking to people globally, because there was a time where I thought it was just me that was dealing with this. And then I mean, you were the first person I ever shared it with. And then we ended up getting on this kind of little train that we went on for a little while before you ditched me for other bitches. Anyway, but now you
things have escalated here.
but you're kind of seeing this from a global perspective now. And have you reflected on it? Because you know me, I'm a reflective stroke. Procrastinator stroke pessimist for the majority of the time. So have you reflected on that in terms of your own journey and your own family's journey? I feel like I'm interviewing you now. I'm not. I'm just asking you. Well, like, it's a good question. Has that come into your head?
It is really interesting, because I remember, I can vividly remember pressing enter or like post on a blog post that kicked it all off, which is still the most read of all my blogs about.
You have the website, people. You can go and visit. It's ourcourts.co.uk or some rubbish like that. I don't know.
Some old crap on the internet. But I remember the moment me thinking, dare I say this? And I said it, and literally it feels like the train hasn't stopped and it's turned into a bullet train. But what is fascinating is so it feels like a massive privilege to sort of step into different cultures, and some of the I spoke to someone in New Zealand where they are maybe like 15, 20 years behind us.
Right.
And there's this lone voice, this individual going, well, I know this is happening again, because this is my story. This is my family's story, and I'm trying to change I'm one voice, and then you go, and so it's just fascinating, but to see some really interesting themes coming out and solutions that you think, oh well, that's transferable, and that's the whole aim of the fellowship, is to kind of is to go right. Well, that I totally get that principle. How can we make that work here, or that model? How can we make it work here? And so I feel like I've created a monster because, especially in terms of the respite, whatever we want to call it, break away, because it's interesting that actually parents need the opportunity to heal as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just
Definitely.
So it's a real clear model where you're separating children, always with the aim of reuniting them, and so there's a lot of the work that I was talking about is how to therapeutically work with children away from their parents, and to therapeutically work with parents away from their children, and then bring them back together. And seeing really, really good success. I mean, it's expensive, it's time consuming, but actually so is endless stream of meetings when nothing happens. That's just as time consuming. So absolutely. I'm having an absolute ball. So where am I off to? I'm off to Canada next week.
When he says he's off to somewhere, that means online. You're not actually traveling.
No,
honestly, because if he was traveling, I would have gone in and on it with him.
Or you'd have been carrying my bags. It's been really.
I'd been walking behind him with his little haversack because he only travels light.
You'd be like my bag man, wouldn't you? You'd be having like it's like wet wipes. Do you need a wet wipe and stick?
And I'd be driving because he's terrible driving. So yeah. Anyway.
Shut your face. But it's fascinating because I thought I really struggled to get people to talk about it prior to. That was one of the reasons I chose to do it online. There was a lot of brick walls. But again, that reflects our maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Adoption services weren't talking about it. Adoption UK wasn't talking about it. It was all hinted at and sort of. But everyone knew, every practitioner knew families were struggling, but no one was talking about it. So it feels like a massive privilege. So I'm really excited, and I've recorded all the interviews as well with people. So, which is just fantastic. I've been to Ireland as well. I'm going back to Ireland. I'm speaking to a friend of the show, Andrew Walker.
Oh yeah, did you get his email address? Because you asked me for it, and I've meant to send it to you.
You didn't send it,
but it should be on your emails. So whatever.
It sounds a fascinating journey, Al.
It does, to be fair. I'm actually very proud to say that, I instigated all this. No, I didn't. I only knew when you got when you got it, whatever it was awarded.
Scott, you are the wind beneath my wings.
It's like it's like his MB. Yeah, I know. It's like his MB. I probably had a part to play in that as well. But we just sit here waiting. We just sit here waiting, Fiona. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Keep fluffing his feathers, and he'll be fine.
I don't want to break your heart, Scott, but the Churchill Fellowship is a honorary as well, so I can put CF after my name.
Not another one.
It'll be MBECF.
I'm sorry, I might need to get a bigger hat now.
Well, do you know what? I was just thinking I need to get new mugs printed when you've got it, because we've got mugs and he's got MBE on the end, and I'll have to get new mugs with CF on it as well. So
it says Alcoat's MBE, Scott Castonready, no BE. That's
exactly.
That's the joke.
Yeah. We're all good. We're all good.
Honestly, this has been so much fun, and I really couldn't be bothered tonight. I'll be.
Wow.
I was exhausted.
Wow, thanks.
I had a very busy day being a grown up in the social work world. So there you go.
Oh, were you adulting? Were you?
I was adult, or at least pretending to adult.
Well, can I just share? I worked all morning. Okay. Because Wednesday's my work from home day, because we don't have enough desks in the offices because we can't afford them, and everybody was in today, so I always work from home on a Wednesday. So I worked all morning, and then I had to go into my boys' room and clear it out.
The shovel and a wheelie.
And when I say clear it out, I just mean tidy it up, because he'd left. And when I say he moved out, he moved out. Okay?
Everything.
Not everything, but like I went to his wardrobe and I was like, "Where's all these clothes?"
All of his clothes.
That boy had a lot of clothes, and how I managed to get them into 3.5 suitcases, I will never know. So yeah. However, what I think is really relevant to this conversation is he was the one that said, "Please don't put my stuff into black bags."
Ah.
And I was like, "I will never put your stuff in black bags, mate, because that's just not fair." So
happen.
there was boxes, there was suitcases, there was backpacks of holding bang, so he could take what he wanted to take. I was very conscious that he has to remember he has to bring it all home at the end of the year.
Well, yes.
So please don't collect too much crap, Jacob, because I know what you're like. But yeah, that was quite a significant moment for me, because actually I've never said that to him. He didn't really come with black bags as such, but my older two did. So clearly he's picked it up from somewhere and just thought. So even as a university student, they just, it's a thing. It's still a thing.
That stuff sloshes around forever, doesn't it?
Does,
Some of it.
Yeah.
Well, Fiona, it's been an absolute pleasure to have
it
you on.
has. You're always like, I feel like you should be my co-host, to be honest with you, Fiona.
Well, if I'm ill,
too big. The shoes are too big.
No, he's only, what are you, size 9, size 8? I don't know.
I like European shoe sizes. Sorry.
No, that's not going to work. I'm sorry.
He's weird. He's definitely weird.
44.
No, don't know.
That's a nah.
Shall I Google it?
Honestly,
it's
never happened. But if you ever want to have a conversation with me about the metric system, you would see a passion in me that burns.
No thanks. I'm out. Done.
I freaking love the metric system. It just makes so much sense.
Okay,
no.
You've got too much on that.
Time on my hands. But
I mean, that's probably not a lie, but for me, I'm just not into it because I've been brought up with a,
I don't know how you have time to think about things like that. It's just BS. I'm sorry.
What did you say? 44?
Honestly, I spend so much of my time thinking about the metric system. You'd be really, really quite concerned.
44 is definitely in 9.5 or something.
No, it's not. It's 10.5. 10 and a bit.
No, shut your face.
Well, your head doesn't match your feet then, doesn't it?
What does that mean?
And if we speak to Mrs. Coates. Anyway, on that note.
On that bombshell.
I was talking about cap size. Thank you, Scott.
Well,
Anyway, Fiona, you're
I just
welcome
want this to end now.
We must record something without Al and see how it goes. I think that'd be fun. That could be our after hours podcast.
After hours podcast. I'm up for that. And don't forget to put the 24th in your diary, Scott, because you are coming.
Okay. Yeah. I'll try and register or whatever. I'll see if I can find it.
We'll get you a link.
We'll send you it. But put it in your diary.
Yeah. It's on a Tuesday, so I'm available.
Yeah.
It's free, but we'll give you mates rates.
As long as you do some work.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm a whore for work, so free work. I mean, volunteering, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, sorry, Al.
You do a lot of work for charity, don't you, Scott? Don't like to talk about it. Right, okay.
You've got the MBE and I do the charity work. I don't know how that works out, but
honestly, trying to
bought it, obviously.
Getting you to talk isn't the trick. Getting you to stop is. So look after yourselves. I will speak to you all soon. And as always, anchovy.
Bon Jovi.
Take care. Bye.